Hello and welcome to the second part of my Skyward Sword Back in Time tutorial. So last time we covered the basics, and today we can start doing actual things in Back in Time. But first, we have to start Back in Time again. You obviously still know how to do it. I'm gonna just quickly do it as well. This time I'm just gonna die normally just to show that there's really no difference. There's no difference in timing and no difference in anything. It's just sometimes a little bit faster to die in a different way. So the first thing I'm going to show off is BiTSaving. Since it's the easiest to understand, I'm going to start with that. So, since there are these statues in Back in Time we can access, we can actually save our files in Back in Time. And what it basically does, it just puts us to the place where the statue is at. So normally, well, let's first take this odd case. So the title screen is a little bit odd case when it comes to BiTSaving, but it's the most common, so I'm gonna explain it first. So again, it doesn't matter with which file you select a statue. It's just important that you select a file before or with pressing save. So I want to save file 3 right now, so I'm gonna do that. Yeah. So now we BiTsaved it, and if we go out again and go back in, you can see we are now saved on Skyloft. By the way, now there's this B wheel here. We're gonna go into that back later, but basically saving did update something on my file, which with the readied up stuff in memory, which end up loading the B wheel. But for now, we'll just focus on BiTSaving. So if I start this file now, I'm gonna be on Skyloft. And in this case, I'm actually gonna be on the title screen. As you can see, this is like the weird lights. So note, if you for some reason are on this screen and you have to redo Back in Time, do not just die here, because it actually, most of the time you actually cannot activate Back in Time. So if you ever find yourself in this situation, it's probably best to either reload with any of these places here, or to die again. Because dying again, since the game has never, since you saved Back in Time, the game has never saved your respawn coordinates. You will actually land back at the place you last saved at, not Back in Time. So in my case, after this little bit longer load, we're gonna be back here. And so it's, yeah. And now I can technically save the statue again if I want to. So yeah, in general, once you did BiTSaving in Back in Time, so let's, for example, say you failed one Back in Time where you had to BiTSave. Don't worry, you can just die with either of the two methods I've shown you. And if you don't save at anywhere else, you can just continue with the Back in Time, and it will be, you don't need to save anymore. So since obviously the game saved it, so I'm just gonna show it off. Hold up, did I save? Well, so basically, if I do not save and I go back to Back in Time, you will still be loaded. It will still show that you're in Skyloft, and you still will be in Skyloft after finishing the Back in Time. So if that happens to you, don't worry, just redo that Back in Time, but this time you don't have to do the saving. The same, by the way, the same goes for copying. I didn't mention it in my basics video, but if you ever copy a file and you fail it Back in Time, the copy is still saved, so you don't have to worry about that. Unless you crash while copying, so for example pressing plus while having the map symbol, then it obviously didn't go through. So yeah, yeah, I saved again. Well, whatever, you get the point. By the way, I say this is the odd one out because actually if you do it with a different file, with a different place. So I'm just gonna load night time, so just a different layer as well on Skyloft. It's gonna be a little bit different, and the reason is that in night, um, the title screen layer is actually a forced layer, and forced layers are pretty rare in Skyward Sword. But basically, when you save at a forced layer, the game will actually be on this layer when you start it. But normally, most places are not forced, so the game would then um, determine the layer with your story flags, as you have seen normally. So yeah. By the way, I just shortly want to point out for anyone of you who wants to try what I'm doing, what can happen is that you sometimes, for some reason, cannot sleep. Right here, you can see I'm pressing A right now, and I cannot talk to the bed. So the reason of that is that you loaded some information that prevented it. I'll go over it later a little bit more in detail, but for now, just select a file that has the hero's tunic and move back into near the door, and you'll be able to sleep now. So yeah, just as an idea if you want to go along with the tutorial. So again, in order to not crash at night, we need to select file 2 before leaving in any way. So now, I mean, it's gonna be not a big change, but as you can see, there are no enemies here. I'm gonna use this, so there's no enemies here, as you can see. So this is a layer with no enemies. But when I BiTSave my file, um, right here, and then it doesn't matter if you reselect it, so you can just directly start it, or you can even start it halfway through the save happening, but don't start it too early. Otherwise, you will have a weird glitch appearing. But yeah, just you don't have to wait or anything too much, but just a little bit waiting. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little bit weird. As you can see, I'm just fighting a lot of enemies. This layer actually has enemies because this is a different layer. Because my file 3 had a different night layer. And also, the rule with not being able to activate back in time doesn't go here. It's only the title screen layer. So yeah, I can just die in any way I want to. Nice invincibility frames. And yeah, and after that, we're gonna go into a little bit more weirder stuff, but still with statues. So let's think about it. We'll start with making a corrupt file because that's gonna be something you'll have to do at least in the safe route to start. So I'm gonna show the two ways to get a corrupt file. So first I'm gonna show the not so often used one, but a little bit faster depending on where you want to make a corrupt file. So for that one, it's important to not leave the title screen. That's why I'm opened in the Vmotion Plus tutorial in order to not trigger the cutscene, the intro cutscene. So do not open the title screen for this one. This one will create a corrupt file onto the file you started back in time with. And if you don't have any file, for some reason, it will just put it on file 3. So, first of all, what is a corrupt file? So a corrupt file is a file that has everything basically deleted on it. And it has no hearts, it has no respawn point, and everything is deleted. And it's useful if you need a way to die, but you can't do it on your run file. So normally it's faster, at least if you're low in health, it's always faster to just die on your normal run file while playing, because going back to the title screen just takes a long time. But for some things like cutscene skip and stuff that actually are required in order to die, it's faster to, or like it's safer or easier to just switch to a file that can directly die. So in a safe route, it's used, for example, to avoid the cutscene skip in Skyward Sword, the after Lovewind tutorial. So the way I do it, which is probably the most convenient, is I go to the no prompt while like having the statue selected. Then I move over to save, press minus again, and directly press A. And you can close the prompt if you want, but you don't need to. And now, if I open the splash screen, it made a corrupt file on file 3 because this was the file I died with. So yeah, this is one way to make a corrupt file. I'm gonna show the other way as well, but first of all, I don't want to lose all of my files, so I'm just gonna void out in order to get the ability to press plus again. So here you go. I'll get my files back, so that I lose all of them. And the other way, more convenient one, because you can also decide which file it is, and you don't have to stay on the splash screen, is and also it's a little bit more expressive, at least you can probably understand it better. So it's basically is deleting a file, and while the deletion process is going on, save the file. So I'm just gonna do that. It doesn't matter when in the deleting process. If you see like more experienced runners, they will try to like start the deletion process as early as possible to save time, but it doesn't matter when you save. It just matters that you save while the deletion process is going on. And after that, the saving process is gonna be queued onto it, and after that you'll have the same outcome of a corrupt file. So yeah, pretty basic. I'm just gonna show it off real quick. Basically, this file has everything set to 0, so also the health, or like not totally everything, but almost everything. And one important thing to note is that do not press continue without using the reset button, because right now the game actually has no respawn point, and it actually crashes upon just normal continue, because it doesn't know what to do. So whenever you use the corrupt file, use only use it to activate back in time and nothing else. It's not much else it can do, basically. So yeah, we got over this. So it's only one more thing I'm gonna quickly talk about, and the main reason is I'm not gonna be fast enough, am I? Nope, I'm not gonna be fast enough, but at least you see me crashing for once. So I'm just gonna quickly back it up. So that's what it crashes, it just basically completely loads. But luckily I have my corrupt files, so dying is gonna be a little bit faster. If the thing can load, please. Hello? Game? Oh, did I... Maybe I loaded a bad... I probably loaded a bad save state. Well, unfortunate. But this one seems like it should work. There you go. So need to recalibrate now. But yeah, as you can see, like if you're going to the to this menu anyways, using the corrupt file isn't too slow. But if you don't need to go here, then it's pretty bad. So next thing I'm gonna show is file duping. So file duping basically happens when you open the title or open the title screen while saving. And it will basically dupe whatever you're saving at the moment. This time I need to do a little bit faster here. There you go. Doesn't matter when you press copy, by the way. Just pressing plus is the important part. It basically will dupe over one file to another file. So I'm just, okay, it's gonna be a little bit hard to see. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bit save first in order to show you how it's normally done. By the way, you can also go like out, but again, don't open the splash screen while bit saving, because that's gonna be the next thing I'm gonna show. And as you can see now, it's on Skyloft. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna have this file, and I'm gonna either what I can do, for example, is like save with opening a title screen, and what I will do is it will dupe over files. So now, as you can see, well, that's a bad example actually, but it would have duped over onto file 3. So don't, just as a general rule, don't open the splash screen while saving. Is just a general rule. Avoiding that should avoid every complication with file duping. It's not important for like 99% of Skyward Sword. There's just only one more or less meme category that uses it. But yeah, so file duping is the only important thing about it is do not open the splash screen while saving. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna put this file back to Eldon because I actually want to be in a different area than Skyloft. And again, I showed you before, since the respawn coordinates don't get saved, you can actually go back to the old statues. So yeah, again, since I wanted to have it in a different area, I need to save here and die again. So this time, again, a little bit. Again, today it's gonna be the little bit easier techniques, but still important. Hello, Link, can you attack? There you go. So yeah, next up is BiTWarping. So BiTWarping is very similar to BiTSaving, and the only difference is that you save and start at the same time. So again, it doesn't matter which file you select the statue with, it's only important that the file you want to BiTWarp with is selected when you save and start at the same time. But yeah, pretty obvious that one. So what basically is going to happen is that the only thing the game is able to save is the coordinates of your file, and after that the starting process basically takes over. So again, it doesn't matter which. I'm just gonna select with a different file just to show that it doesn't matter. And I'm also gonna show a little bit here in the memory viewer to give you an idea. So this the things I'm in D3 here right now are the coordinates Link is on. And as you can see, if I move like here, it's gonna change. And once I save, it's gonna be down here, and it's gonna be the one that's gonna be applied to the map I'm on. So file 1, just so you know, is saved in Eldon Volcano. So if I go here, right here, for example, just as an example, and I save and start at the same time. By the way, just as a note, it's not. I would not recommend it for beginners, but technically you can start before saving, but it needs to be really quick afterwards. And if you fail it, it's pretty sad. But this is just a really easy method, just using your nunchuck to go over there and just start and save at the same time. And yeah, now we're in Eldon. Right here. Okay. So after BiTWarp, one important thing of the BiTWarp, remember that the last statue you saved at S is actually in Skyloft. So it depends on the area you're on, but some areas will put you back to the BiTWarp place, and some areas will just put you to the last statue you actually saved on out of BiT. So Eldon is a bad example for that one because it actually puts you back to the state you saved at if you die. But like if you die and normally continue. But other places do not have that luxury. But again, dying again actually puts you back. So, for example, the first BiTWarp you're gonna do is gonna be in Skyview. And if you die there, you can either just directly redo back in. Can either just die again, and then you will just be in Skyview, or you'll like yeah, fly there back. But obviously the best way is just to die again, and then you'll be back at the normal statue. That's probably what some of you might have encountered on BiTWarping. So yeah, important thing as well, if you want to redo a BiTWarp, it's important that you save again at statue you started at, or at least at one statue in the area, because right now, if I were to just activate back in time, I would actually, my file 1 would still be saved in Skyloft, so doing a BiTWarp would just BiTWarp me onto Skyloft, so definitely not where you want, because the map now on my file is Skyloft. So I'm just gonna die normally and continue. Again, Elden is a bad example, but sometimes, or normally, you'll be back on Skyloft after this, and you have to die again. So yeah. So again, I'm saving here, so in order to actually, if I want to redo the back in time, I definitely have to add the BiTWarp. I definitely have to do this. But yeah. Okay. So BiTWarps, pretty quick one. There's not much to explain. The only interesting thing there's still to talk about. You might remember the title screen being like acting weirdly when it comes to BiTSaving, that it actually puts you onto the title screen layer. And the way to avoid it, for example, would be, I mean, I don't have a file right now, but let's say file 2 were actually saved on Skyloft and not on the title screen layer. So like, I don't know, layer 1. Let's say it's saved on layer 1 on Skyloft. If I were to BiTWarp with this file, it would actually take layer 1, as basically it would still save my coordinates here, but it would take the map and the layer of the file it should have. Or rather, it will calculate the layer then, like normally. So that way you can technically avoid getting onto the title screen layer after, like if you hear. So it's gonna, this one is used in 100% once. So it's not really important, but just as a reminder, that kind of you don't have any forced layers after you do a BiTWarp. So yeah. So next up, the last point about my little starting stuff is gonna be a reverse BiTWarp. So a reverse BiTWarp basically does the opposite of a BiTWarp. That's where the name came from. And it basically takes the coordinates that my file has saved at. So I'm just gonna show that off real quick. So there's these saved coordinates which are different from my actual coordinates back in time. And it's gonna take these coordinates and apply it to the map I'm entering. So, for example, if I want to reverse BiTWarp into the bazaar, I am gonna start the file and then enter the loading zone. So, as a rule of thumb, different areas need different timings for, like, basically, the important part is that the starting process is not finished before the loading actually happens. So the loading needs to happen before the starting process is finished. So like for doors, for example, you need to wait a little bit, since opening a door just takes a long time, otherwise you will not reverse BiTWarp. And for stuff like Bazaar, where it's just an open loading zone, you have to start earlier before entering it, because otherwise you will be too late. Yeah, that's basically important things. There are even more awkward timings, but for the most part, keep that in mind. You have to want to start before the loading, before it loads, but the loading process needs to be in the time while it's starting. So for example, I'm gonna just start and run in. And now you'll obviously see me avoiding out because the bazaar is not really a big area, and my coordinates, which is pretty bad, pretty out of the way. As you can see, I'm not even on the map here, so I'm pretty far out of bounds. If something like that happens, don't worry. It's you can just reset, and you'll be back. But remember, your file is now saved on Skyloft again, so you can just I'm just gonna go on to file 1 here, and oh wait, actually never mind. Never mind. Reverse BiTWarp, not BiTWarp. Yeah, reverse BiTWarp. Obviously, we didn't save anywhere, so we're still in El Volcano. So you just reset and you can start again. You even like. There's gonna be something late in the game where you have to like set up your positioning. You don't need to redo the setup now because the game still has. I'm gonna show it. It still has the exact same save coordinates, right? So you don't even need to redo like position setups and stuff, unless you obviously know it failed. The most part when you land out of bounds after reverse BiTWarp, the positioning obviously failed. So yeah, but if you for some reason like your bit fail before the reverse BiTWarp, you don't need to redo the setup for the positioning. Um, you can just redo the deck in time right away. And if you actually do the reverse BiTWarp and you land like out of bounds or on the wrong place, it's the same thing. Just reset. But this time you have to redo the setup because your positioning was wrong. Okay. I'm thinking that's gonna be it for now. It's a little bit longer video. Next up, I'm gonna go into a little bit more about flags, actually showing flags and stuff. So yeah. See you soon. Bye.